back to the kitchen. Today on Get Cooking with Rev, we're going to be making lasagna. Now some of you may be saying, Rev, why are you making lasagna? That's easy. Well, not everyone knows how to make a lasagna, and it's what's for dinner tonight, so that's what we're making. So let's flip this camera around and take a look at the ingredients we're going to need. First item up, we're going to need some lasagna noodles available in your local grocery store. It costs about $1 to $2. We're going to use, I don't know how big of a box this is, but we're going to use just about the whole thing. You'll have a couple left over, but that's okay. You're also going to need 2 pounds of ground beef. This is actually about 2.5 pounds because when I split this up, they were about 1.25 pounds each. So we got about 2.5 pounds, but basically 2 pounds. Next item, 1 diced up onion. I'm not going to let you guys watch me do that again because you've watched me do it 100 times. If you don't know how to dice an onion by now, that's your problem. Next up, you'll need some shredded cheese. I am using Fiesta blend because it's what they had on sale. You can use mozzarella, parmesan. If you can find the Italian blend, which is actually what I was looking for, use that because that has a bit of everything in it. I couldn't find that, so I'm using the Fiesta blend. There's also the Monterey Cheddar Jack blend. That works too. You are going to need 1 large tub, I don't know if you can tell how big that is, of cottage cheese. This is large curd. You can use whatever you got. This is a 24-ounce container. You will also need at least 2 cans, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, of pasta sauce. As it says there, pasta sauce. It's not actually tomatoes, apparently. So I got 1 traditional, 1 meat. That's because I bought 2 with meat. My mother used 1. She replaced it with a traditional. It doesn't matter as long as you got at least 2 cans. These are, again, the larger cans. These are, where's the ounces? These are 24-ounce cans, or 1 pound 8 ounces. Why would you measure a can in pounds? That doesn't make any sense. Anyway, there you have it. Those are the ingredients you will need to make your lasagna. Now let's get started. Over here to the stove now, we're going to preheat our oven. We're going to bake it at 375 to 400. We're going to start at 400. It says anywhere from 375 to 400. We're going to go with 400 just because I want to get it done a little bit quicker. And we're going to start our preheat. And so while that's preheating, we're also going to grab our large frying pan here. We're going to brown up our meat, but first we're going to chop up our onion. So let's get started with that. And also while chopping our onion, we got our larger pan about half full of water on high heat. We're going to bring this up to a boil to boil our lasagna noodles. We don't want them all the way done, just pliable. And I'll show you guys that once this water comes to a boil. Okay, so here we have our cutting board and our onion. I know I said I wasn't going to let you guys watch me cut the onion again this time, but this time I'm not going to cut it with a knife. I'm going to use my mother's little chopper thing here. I'm looking for the slap chop that I know we have, and I can't find it anywhere, so I'm going to use this thing. Hopefully this goes quick. So while you're going to cut this, go ahead and start preheating your other pan for your meat as well, just to get that up to temperature. I got it set at about a 5, so about a medium. So let's go ahead and get this thing cut up. Alright, so back to my basic method. Saw off the bottom nub, saw off the top nub, give it a small cut, peel off the outside layer because you don't want all that skin crap on there, just like that. We're going to take it, cut it in half once, cut that in half. Oven's done preheating. Cut that in half like so. Now, we're going to bring in our chopper. We're going to place approximately 1/4 of the onion right there on the blades. And press. Just like that. Boom, done. Next one. Like so. Sorry about the loud bangs, that's how this thing works. That's why I'd rather have the slap chop. Last one. Give that a little press, get all the gunk out. You probably can't even see that, but there's little prongs that push out there. And there's little bits of onion right here, you just want to scrape those down into the pan. Going to pull out the blades, give them a nice tap, clean them off. Let's poke all those little cubes out that are still stuck in there. Like so. Alright, so there we have one quick and easy diced up onion. Perfect dices, no tears, ready to go. Let's get our meat in the pan and ready to brown. Alright, here we are back over at our frying pan. It's been on at a medium heat for a little bit now. You can feel the heat coming off of it. So we're going to take 1 pound of our hamburger. Flop it right there in the pan, just like that. Grab the other pound of our hamburger. Right here. Boom, right into the pan, just like that. Grab our 1 diced up onion. Boom, right into the pan, just like that. Get our little rubber spatula here to scrape all the other onion bits out of the bottom. Don't leave anybody behind. Boom, boom, boom. Try not to leave anybody behind. Obviously a few of them are going to be stubborn. Good enough. Grab our handy dandy masher and go to town. As always. Is it just me, or does every dish I cook tend to... Whoops, don't grab the pan, dumbass. Does every dish I cook tend to involve chopping an onion and browning meat? I don't know. Maybe that's just the way this show's going so far. Maybe I'll have more original recipes down the road that don't involve chopping hamburger and onions. Again, we just want to get this all incorporated. Get them onions all mixed in nice and good. You don't want any large pockets of onions sitting by themselves. You don't want any large clumps of hamburger. This is the tube meat, so it is slightly more sticky. It's got a higher fat content. So as you can see, it's kind of clinging to our masher a little bit more than normal. But that's alright. Just scrape it out with your finger. Do wash your hands before you start cooking. You guys never see me do that, but I do every time. Because it's just gross if you don't. If you're the only one eating it, it doesn't really matter because you know what's on your hands, but if other people are eating it, clean your damn hands. Alright, we're going to find something to lid this because this is my larger skillet, so it'll probably be the pizza tray. And we're going to let this brown up as usual, and we'll be back on for the next step. Alright, so over here on the other side of the stove, as you can see, our water has started to boil. Again, if you're wondering why this pan is elongated, it is specially designed for larger noodles like pasta noodles, lasagna noodles, what have you. So now that that's up to a boil, we're going to take our box of lasagna noodles and we're just going to dump them in very carefully, just like that. As you can see, they all fall right down into the water. You don't have to sit there and wait a minute for them to boil down so you can push them in. Just give them a little bit of shake. Now you're going to turn down your heat to about a medium, and we're just going to let those boil. Now we want them just pliable, we don't want them fully cooked. I have seen some people just put them in the lasagna still raw and let the sauce bake them in the oven, but then how do you know when they're actually done? So I'm going to boil them a little bit just until they become nice and pliable, maybe 5 minutes or so. Probably good to get this in right around the time you preheat the oven. That'd probably be perfect time. Once your oven's preheated after 5-6 minutes, these will probably be perfect. So we're going to stir our meat and get that browned up, get these soft, and then we'll be back and I'll show you how to assemble your lasagna. Okay kids, it's been about 4 or 5 minutes, not sure. Our meat's just about done, but I'm showing you the pasta noodles. They're just becoming tender to where you can kind of fold them like that. They're not real sticking. So this is pretty much where you want them. You don't want them too overly cooked, like I said, so we're going to go ahead and turn our heat off. Put our lid back on until our meat's done, and then we're going to drain the water off of these so we can handle them. And then we'll do a little bit more with the meat mixture, and we'll be on to the next step. Okay guys, and as you can see, our meat is browned up. Now you may be saying, whoa Rev, what the hell? There's a lot of grease in there compared to normally when we see a browned meat. Well, before in my recipes I was using fresh ground beef, which you find at the deli counter. It's the one with the styrofoam underside and just wrapped up in plastic. That's usually cut fresh that day, and it costs about $5 a pound. You go to Walmart, you get one of those big tubes for like 5 or 10 pounds worth of meat for anywhere from 10 to 20 bucks. Usually 20 for the 10 pound and about 10 bucks for the 5 pound or 3 pound or 2, whatever you want to get. The price reflects. That larger tube ends up coming out to about $2 to $2.50 per pound by the time you figure it all out. The thing is, those tubes have a different fat content. If you read them, they say like 80-20 or 75-15 or something like that. The smaller of those numbers is usually your amount of fat in the meat. This is 80-20, so it's 20% fat mixed in with 80% meat. So as you cook it, you end up getting more of this soupy grease mess. But that's alright, because it's still 2 pounds of meat, so it doesn't matter. So now we're going to turn off our heat, move this over to the sink and drain it, and then we'll be back. Alright, so over to the sink we go with our meat mixture. We're just going to let all that grease run off. Again, do not pour grease down the drain. It is bad for your drains. I don't know if I've ever said it before. I've always meant to. If you're going to pour grease directly down your drain like this, run your hot water for about 5 to 10 minutes afterwards. Just let it run straight down the drain. It helps break up the grease, helps the grease spread out more in the drain so it doesn't become large clogs that cause drain issues later. The ideal thing is if you have a large coffee can or something that you can store grease in, put it under your strainer, let all the grease drip off into that canister, and then dispose of it properly in the trash after it resolidifies. Or save it in when you need a little bit of oil for something, like cooking hamburger or any other type of meat. You just dump a little bit of that grease back into the pan, and it's good to go. So we have all our meat. We're going to let that drain for a minute, then we'll move back over to the stove. Alright guys, now that our meat's had a couple minutes to drain into the sink, we're going to take our drained meat mixture right back into the pan here, like so. I have removed it from the heat, so that's why you don't hear all that sizzling. I actually got it on a separate burner, and that's because we're going to add more to this than just what you see here. So get all the little onion bits out of our strainer so you can see our meat mixture. Next item up you want is your cottage cheese. Some people use ricotta cheese, some use a mix of ricotta and cottage. I'm not a big fan of the flavor of ricotta. It's okay, but just not my thing and not something I really want to eat when I'm eating lasagna. So I use cottage cheese. This is, again, large curd, and you're just going to dump everything right into your meat mixture like so. Again, get your little spoon, scrape out the bottom of the bowl, or the tub, whatever you call it, the container. Like so. And now you're just going to incorporate that into your meat. And let me get a better spatula to do that with. So we got our slotted spoon here. You just want to mix in your cottage cheese until you got a nice even mixture throughout your meat. Try not to spill too much of the meat all over the stove like I'm doing, because it is vital to the recipe. Shit. It was about a pound of it right there. Okay. Alright, so once you got a nice even mix like that, or as close to even as you can get without throwing it all over the floor like I almost did, we're going to leave that sit. And now we're going to drain the water off of our noodles, and we're going to get started in the assembly. Alright, back over here to the sink. We don't really need the strainer, but I'm going to leave it there just for safety. So we're going to bring our giant noodle pan over, remove the lid, and we're just going to drain the water off the end like so. Try not to let the noodles run out. If they do, that's why the strainer's there. No big deal. I'm going to use my spoon to try and hold them back a bit. You can see how they're kind of folding up, but not too fast. That's just about what we want as far as pliability. And they're all going to go if I try to get the rest of that. Let me reposition. Alright. You don't need it all out. A little bit's fine. Dump these back in like so. Okay guys, so now that our noodles are heated and drained, our meat is cooked and mixed and brown and ready to go. Now we're over here to our cake pan. I'm going to show you how to assemble this. We went ahead and opened up one can of our sauce. I'm just going to open up one can at a time just so I don't accidentally knock one over. Now, you're going to take just a little bit of the sauce and dump it across the bottom like so, not too much. Then you're just going to kind of want to give it a little bit of a spread around. Actually, I might need a little bit more than that. You don't want to overdo it, you just want enough to coat the bottom so nothing sticks to it. Like, basically, as you can see, it's kind of running from side to side. That's about what you want. Just a nice, even, smooth coverage across the bottom. So I'm going to work that around for a minute, get it where I want it. Okay, don't know how well you guys can see that, but it's got a nice, even layer of tomato sauce over the bottom. Very, very thin. As you can see, we're only down a little bit in the can, maybe 2-3 of the ridges on the outside of the can. We're down about to the second one of those. So now, very carefully, we want to take one of our noodles. Now they may stick together a little bit because they have been sitting for a couple minutes without water in them, but you don't want to keep them in water because you don't want them to overcook. You still want them to be pliable. Like I said, I have seen people just take the raw noodles and put them in here. If you want to try that method, go for it. It's your world. As you can see, it just about covers the full length of the pan. I'm going to center it a little bit just so we get full coverage. These are larger noodles apparently, because last time I made this they only came up to like here, and then I had to lay one this way. But these are actually better noodles because they're giving me better coverage. And I probably didn't need the whole box, but if I don't cook the whole box, then I end up needing it, and it's a mess. So, yeah. There you can see I got enough room for about half a noodle there. But you know what? Since I'm going to have all these extras, I'm just going to find a way to fit a full one in there somehow. If they overlap a little bit, no big deal, right? So we're looking for something about like that. Like I said, if your noodles are shorter and you gotta lay one this way, go ahead. If it's too long and it comes up the side of the pan, just like in one of the other recipes I showed you, just measure out what you need, cut off the rest. Now at this step, take a little bit more of your sauce here, and just kind of sprinkle it lightly over the top. Again, you don't want too much. Like so. And then we're just going to take our little spatula type of thing here, just lightly spread it around. You don't need a whole lot because this is the first layer and there's some underneath, so that first part's pretty good there. Now we're going to take our meat and cottage cheese mix. You know, I was thinking as I mixed this and I kept spilling it all over, there was plenty of room in the strainer. I could have added the cottage cheese in and mixed it there, and then put it back in the pan, but whatever. So you just want to take a nice couple spoonfuls. Get a little bit of coverage all the way around, like so. Give that a nice spread, and then see what you're working with here. Maybe a little bit more. Get some over here in this corner, like that. That looks pretty good, and as you can see, we still got more than half of our mixture here, which is about what we want. Now the next item up, again, you can add a little bit more sauce here if you want. I'm going to wait a minute before I do. But the next item up is our cheese. Again, this is Fiesta blend. Normally I would use Italian blend, but this is all they had at the store, and I wasn't going to go to 100 stores looking for it. But actually first what I want to do is I got this little bit of cheese left over from the pizza dogs the other day. I'm going to go ahead and use this up because it is mozzarella, so it works. And I'm just going to break that up a little bit. Now we're going to add our Fiesta blend. Just a nice handful, like so. Try not to use up all of it in one layer. We got to have enough to last us a while. I got the largest bag I could find. It was about $8 to $10, somewhere around there. We're just going to give that a nice little layer like that. Alright. Now, you're going to repeat your layers, if I can get these damn noodles apart. That's probably why it's a good thing to leave a little bit of water in the bottom just to prevent them from sticking too much. You could leave the full amount of water in there and just kind of pull them out, but then they're going to be hot to handle, and that's what you don't want. You don't want to burn yourself on boiling water trying to get a noodle out of a pan. I am overlapping these slightly just because I want to do 4 per layer, just because I got a whole box of noodles made up here and I'm not going to need them all, I don't think. So yeah, if you want to figure for about 12 or so noodles out of the box instead of cooking up the whole thing, that'd probably be the safer bet to go. I am fighting to get these apart right now, that's why it's taking so long. There is number 4, like so. Now we're going to add in more of our sauce. This one you want a little bit more coverage with, so use it kind of sparingly. You do got the second can, so it's not that big a deal. And give that a nice spread around until you have a nice coating like that. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and use up most of what's left in this can, just to make sure I got good coverage there. There's still a tiny bit left in there, but I will need the second can now. If you're a little bit more sparing with it, you can probably get by with this recipe with 1 can. But I didn't put a whole lot on that first layer, so I'm kind of making up for it now. You want it to have a little bit of sauce to it, but you don't want to overdo it. Good coverage just like that. Alright. Now, in case you can't guess what the next step was, more of our meat mixture. Kind of hold it over the pan so if it does fall out of the sides, you're not wasting it onto the floor. Probably going to use up most of what you got left right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and dump the rest of this into the pan because we're only doing a 3-layer lasagna, or 2-layer lasagna I guess. Technically it's 3. So just get all that goodness in there, give it a nice spread. Should have a enough amount to cover everything here. As you can see, since I went kind of sparingly with the sauce, it's nice and filling up the emptiness there. And that is the remainder of our meat mixture. And once again, we're going to hit it with another layer of cheese. Sprinkle that all around. Probably could have used a little bit more tomato sauce in that bottom layer, since I am going to end up having to use the other can and I'm not going to need the full amount for what I got left to do. But I was trying to make it with just the 1 can so I could save the other can for something else. But it is what it is. If you gotta use the other can, you gotta use the other can. Just use what you need out of it and put the rest away. Okay, so there we got our nice layer of cheese. And then we're going to do 1 more layer on top, like so. All the way across. You know what, it might have been easier just to use the shells without cooking, or the pasta without cooking them, but I've always been told to cook them ahead of time. Cuts down on your cooking time overall because you don't have to wait for the hard shells to become soft in the oven. So this will be done closer to the 45-minute mark as opposed to the hour. But at the same time, it makes it a little bit more difficult to work with. I guess that's the trade-off, right? So if I can get 1 more of these apart here, like so. There we have that. Now we're going to hit it with the rest of our sauce, which, as you can see, I used almost quite a bit in that other layer. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my other can. It might be better just to buy like 3 small cans instead of 2 big ones like this, but good luck finding smaller cans of pasta sauce. I don't think I've ever seen those anywhere. So we're just going to give this a nice little spread. Again, be a little liberal with it. Take your spatula, give it a nice even spread over top. A little bit more. So we've used about half of that can for what we just put here. Okay, that gives us good coverage there. And just for shits and giggles, a little bit more cheese on the top, right? Again, we don't want to use up our whole bag of cheese. Maybe about half of the large bag. Maybe about 2 to 3 of the small bags, depending on what you're buying. Give that a little bit of a spread around, see what we're working with so we don't use too much. like so. Alright. So there is our coverage of cheese. As you can see, we still got quite a bit left. I got enough to make a few quesadillas or something. If you don't know how to make a quesadilla, check out my previous episode, or one of my previous episodes. And as you can see, we do have quite a few noodles left. We have enough to do another layer if we needed to. Depends on what size you're working with and whatnot. You can put these in a plastic container, store them in your fridge for a few days. If they stiffen up, just put them back in some boiling water. They'll soften back up and you can use them in something. Since I do have half a can of sauce left, I might just chop them up and make like a quick spaghetti out of it or something while I'm waiting for this to bake. But anyway, this goes into our preheated oven now for 45 minutes to an hour. Like I said, probably closer to 45 because you did pre-boil the noodles. But if you're using the raw noodles, probably a little bit closer to the hour. But then how do you check? You'd have to cut into it and listen for a crunch. So we're going to pop this in the oven, and I'll see you guys in 45 minutes to an hour. Alright guys, so it's been about 45 minutes or so, maybe a little bit closer to 50. And as you can see, it is done. It did get a little bit more toasted around the edges than I planned, but that's okay. Nothing wrong with a little bit of a crispy top, right? Overall, it looks pretty good to me. And yeah, I'm going to let this rest for about 10 minutes, and then we're going to come back and cut into it, and then I'll let you guys see me eat it. Alright, so we'll see you in 10. Okay, so it's been about 15 minutes, and this has cooled down pretty well. So we're going to go ahead and cut it, and then we're going to dish it up, and then we'll see how it tastes. So again, I'm going to cut this into quarters, and then thirds, if that makes sense. So let's get into this. Just going to go once down the center. I usually go down it a couple times just to make sure I got a nice clean cut. And then I'm going to go halfway between those two. So right about here. And then give it a rotate. We're going to go down the other side about halfway. Alright, we're going to go this way. And we're going to measure out roughly about a third of the way over. As you can see, it is still a little bit juicy, so if you want to give it another 10 minutes or so before you cut into it, that's fine, but it's not going to make that big of a difference. So there's that, and then right about here. And there we have it. So now that it's cut into about 12 pieces, let me grab a plate and we'll plate this up and see how it tastes. Okay, so also before you take it out, you kind of want to run your knife down the sides a little bit just to break any of that cheese away from the side so it doesn't stick too bad when you're trying to dish it out. You'll feel where it's sticking, just kind of dig into it. Okay, so there we've gone around the outside edge. Now we're going to get us our spatula. I'm just going to about come in here like this and scoop us out a nice heaping piece of our delicious lasagna, as you can see here. Alright, so now let's see how this tastes. Alright, so we're moving away from the table today, back to the counter, but as you can see I got my lasagna here. Made a little bit of a mess out of the plate, but that's okay. So we're just going to cut us off a nice little piece here. There we go. And let's see how this tastes. Cheers. That is delicious. I'm going to go enjoy this. You guys go enjoy yours if you made it. Again, as always, thank you guys for watching. Remember, like, comment, subscribe, share the video. Links to social networks are in the description. If you make this recipe and you want to show it to me, send me a picture on Instagram, or send me a link to a video of you making it or something down in the comments or on Twitter or whatever, and maybe you'll be featured on a future video. So, until next time, again, as always, thank you guys for watching. Until then, get cooking.